everyone, welcome to our channel Knowledge of Friends. Subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon for the latest update. आज हम डेटा वेयर हाउसिंग एंड डेटा माइनिंग की क्लास करने वाले हैं जो कि क्लास नंबर 16 है and before that in the 15 classes what we had done is your unit 1 we had completed and unit 2 we had completed, unit 3 we have completed, unit 4 we have completed and unit 5 we have completed. Even though in the last classes we had completed all the 2 marks possible short questions of unit 1 we had completed, we have completed 2 and 3 and we are doing 4. And as according of the short questions we are doing in the 3 ways, that is first is your memory based question, the second is your application based question, and the third is your evaluation based question. So in unit 4 we had started with memory based questions, yeah, and we are not had ended up with it, and now we hopefully end up with that as well in this class. And first of all, it's a huge request from my side to all the viewers, please go through with the subscribe button and please like, share and subscribe our channel so that many maximum people can get the information at once, and even though you can also enjoy the video as well. In this class we'll start discussing about unit 4, that is your classification and clustering. That is your memory based question. So in the last class we had discussed about the tree pruning, that is the last topic. Now we'll go ahead with the continuing of memory based question, which is of possible 2 marks question, that what we have to discuss as well. And that is the question is, name the 2 approaches of a tree pruning. So let's go ahead. 2 approaches of tree pruning. So in the same case, for that, the 2 approaches of the tree pruning we have. The first approach is pre-pruning approach, and the second is your post-pruning approach. Now we'll go ahead with the detailed about it, and that what we even though have to discuss about it, and let's go ahead with that. And that is the another question that has been arise, and as I told you about, this is the 16 class, and hopefully if it is not exceeded, so it will be the last class of data warehouse and data mining as well. The second question has been arise that give the issues regarding the clustering and prediction. So the issues of related regarding the clustering and predictions here. Issues regarding clustering and prediction. So the various issues regarding the clustering and predictions we have. The first we have here is your preparing the data for classification and prediction. In this it comes under, like, it includes data cleaning, relevance analysis and data transformation and reduction. The second we have comparing classification and prediction methods. So that includes accuracy, speed, robustness, scalability and interpretability. Now we'll go ahead with other question here. That is, your question is that with this, that what are the different classification technique. So different classification technique, that what we have to discuss here. different classification technique includes as in the form that they are the different classification technique, and the first we have is the decision tree. The second is your Bayesian classification. Third is your rule-based classification. The fourth is classification by backpropagation. And the fifth we have is your support vector machine, that is SVM. Now we'll go ahead with another one, that is the another question, and that is write a short note on Bayesian classification, which we can be asked here. In the Bayes rules, if I'm talking about with the formula here for the Bayesian classification, so Bayes rule is your P H1 I equals to P X I on H1 P H1 on P X I by H1 P H1 plus P X I upon H2 and P H2. So this is a formula for the Bayesian classification, and in the note regarding towards it, if they had asked you about it, so you can say that the Bayesian classifiers are the statistical classifier, and they can predict the class membership probabilities, such as probability that a given sample belongs to a particular class here. Now the other question is that what do you understand by the k nearest neighbor classifier? So k nearest neighbor classifier here, that is in this, the nearest neighbor classifier are based on learning by analogy, that is by comparing a given test topic with training tuples and that are similar to it. Each tuple represents a point in an n-dimensional space, and all the training tuples are stored in an n-dimensional pattern space. Where the k-nearest neighbor classifier searches the pattern space for the k-training tuples and that are closest to the unknown tuple. Now the other question has been arise is to describe genetic algorithm. In the terms of the genetic algorithm here, that we'll talk about it, which is in this algorithm an initial population is created which consists of randomly generated rules, and a string of bits is used to represent each rule here. The other question has been arise is that is what is clustering. In what is clustering, if I'm talking about, in clustering, that is, the clustering is an unsupervised machine learning process that creates clusters such that data points inside the clusters that are close to each other and also far apart from the data point is other cluster. And the goal of the clustering is to discover both the dense and the sparse region in the underlying data here. Now we'll go ahead to discuss about the detailed about what are the advantages of clustering. So in the talking about the clustering advantages here, that is, there are various advantages of clustering we have. The first is that automated dictionary, and that is your thesaurus generations, and the second is to allow the creation of improved search or browsing interface. Third is to improve retrieval efficiency. And the fourth is to permit the discovery of the user communities as well. That is helpful for the recommendation function. In the same case, we'll talk about the other question, that is to give various approaches of clustering. So various approaches of clustering we'll discuss here. Various approaches of clustering. The various approaches of clustering is are as to be follows. The first is your partitioning method. The second is your hierarchical method. The third is density based method. The fourth is grid based method. And the fifth and the last is your model based method. Now we'll go ahead with other one, that is another question is list out the various data types in a cluster analysis. So let's go ahead with that as well. So the question is various data types in cluster analysis. So in this, the data types in the cluster analysis, we have the first is your interval scaled variables. The second is your binary variables. The third is your categorical variables. The fourth is ordinal variables. And the fifth is your ratio scaled variables. Now we'll go ahead with the detailed about it, and the other question has been arised here, which is what are the various requirements of clustering in data mining. So various requirements of clustering in data mining that we have to talk about it, and that are to be as follows as well. What they followed is in the form, and that is the requirements of clustering are the first we have is scalability. The second we have is your, in the same case, in the same pattern what they are following is in the frame case, and frame is your, the second one we have is your high dimensionality. The third is ability to deal with the noisy data. The fourth we have is your interpretability and usability. The fifth we have is ability to deal with different kinds of attribute. And the sixth we have is that intensity to order of input records. Now we'll go ahead to discuss about write a short note on click. So in the same case, the click is a clustering in quest, that is the full form. So in the clustering request, and it was the first algorithm that is proposed for the dimension growth, and dimension growth clustering in a high dimensional space, and in dimensional growth subspace clustering, the clustering process starts as a single dimensional subspaces and grows upward to the higher dimensional one as well. Now we'll discuss about the other question, which is to explain outlier analysis. In the terms of outlier analysis here, that the data object which are that is your grossly different from or inconsistent with the remaining set of data that are called outlier, and outlier are the sample points where the values that much or different from those of the remaining set of data, and the outlier may represent error in data or could be correct data value, and that are simply much different from remaining data as well. Now we'll go ahead with other one, that is to define association rule mining. In the term of the association rule mining here, that association rules are an important class of methods of finding regularities, patterns in data. This rule mining finds interesting association that or the correlation relationship among as large a set of data item, and it is one of the functionality of data mining which discovers the association relationships among the huge amount of data as well. We'll go ahead with other one that we have to discuss is to explain market basket analysis. In the market basket analysis here, in market basket analysis, the customer buying habits are analyzed by finding association between the different items that customer place in their shopping basket. By finding such association, retailers develop marketing strategies by analyzing which items are frequently purchased together by customers. This association can lead to increase the sales by helping retailers to do selective marketing and plan their shelf space as well. We'll go ahead with other one, that what we have to discuss is what are the methods to improve a priori efficiency. Methods to improve a priori efficiency. So in this, that following are the various methods to improve the a priori efficiency. That the first we have hash based item set counting. The second is your dynamic item set counting. The third we have is your transaction reduction. Fourth we have is your partitioning. And the fifth we have is your sampling. In the same case, now we'll have arise another question, that what do you mean by classification by backpropagation? So classification by backpropagation is that is, it is a neural network here. In the same case, that it is a neural network that learning algorithm. Backpropagation learns by iteratively processing a data set of training tuples, comparing the network prediction for each tuple with an actual known target value, and the target value are the known classes labels of training tuple, and these are modified to minimize the mean squared error. Now we'll go ahead with the discussion about the what a defined neural network. In the terms of the neural network here, a neural network is a network of stimulated neurons here, and that can be even though that can be used to recognize instance of pattern, and a neural network learned by searching through a space of network weights. And a neural network is a set of connected input and output units where each connections that has a weight associated with it. So here the NN, that is the NN learning is also referred to as a connection learning due to the connections between units as well. Now we'll discuss about it. What is feed forward network? In the feed forward network here, that is a feed forward neural network allows signals to travel one way only from input to output, and there is no feedback. That is that the output of any layer does not affect the same layer here. And in the same cases, they are extensively used in pattern recognition, and this type of organization is also referred to as a bottom up or top down here. Now we'll go ahead with other question, and that is another question is to explain multi-layer feed forward neural network. So we'll discuss about multi-layer. So in the multi-layer feed forward neural network, that is that the backpropagation algorithm performs a learning on a multi-layer feed forward neural network, and the inputs correspond to the attribute measured for each training. That is the samples, the input that are fed simultaneously into a layer of new units making up the input layer, and the hidden layer is weighted output, and which can be input to the another hidden layer, and so on. So now we'll go ahead to discuss about it, which is your application based questions. Application based questions. So in the same case, diagrammatically, you have to show that the feed forward configuration. So with this same case, we'll be representing that as well. That is, this is your IN1, N1, N2, N3, N4. So here we have, so this is connected to this, and even though this is connected to this, and even though this is connected to this was connected this and this is will be connected to all the three, and IN4 as well connected to all the three here, and that is comes under in it, and that get forward and gives you output here. And even though this is also connected to this, and this is also connected to this is a feed forward configuration diagram here. Now here in the same case as I told you about it, which is another question, diagrammatically you have to show the frame work of the chameleon here. So as I told you about in that the we have a data set that construct the spheres graph, and then partitions of this graph, and then merged partitions, and then final cluster has been formed. So that is comes under the chameleon framework of the chameleon here. Now we'll discuss about the evaluation based question. In the evaluation based questions, the first question is that to identify the figure that is given below. So you have to identify the figures where we have a genetic operations and then offspring populations, then we have a decoded string, evaluation, scores, selections, pairs, and then genetic operations, and from population to the selection, that is parents. So that comes under a figure here, and that is with that figure we can say that the figure will be the evaluation based question. The figure will be the reproduction cycle of genetic algorithm. Reproduction cycle in genetic algorithm. Now we'll talk about the another one, that is the another question here. The second question is to identify the data types in cluster analysis. You have to identify the data types in the cluster analysis here. In the same case, that this is a generations of the binary variable, and that it can take on more than two state. For example, map color that shows this variable that may have 5 state, say like red, yellow, blue, pink, and green. So I just repeat the question. The question is to identify the data types in a cluster analysis, and that is that this is a generation of a binary variable, in that it can take on more than two states. For example, like map color shows this variable that may have a 5 states, like say red, yellow, blue, pink, and green. The answer is your categorical variable. Now the other question is that has been arised is that you have to predict the algorithm from the given data. That is, the type is mixed, space is that is your n, and the time is your, of course, the n here. That you have to note that heap, arbitrary, or outlier. And so the answer would be your, the third answer would be on the based of evaluation based question, which is Q algorithm for that given data. The other question has been arise, that is from the given data below that name the algorithm. The type is your partitional, space is same, time is the space, time is same, and but the nodes is CF trees and or outliers here. So in the same cases, that the answer would be your that the data flow for that algorithm we have is your the fourth one, which is your birch. Now we'll go ahead here with the another questions here, and that is in the terms of it. The another question is to predict the type of an algorithm. If algorithm is spam, and space is your on square, and circle time is your, of course, n minus k square. The nodes is the iterative and outlier. So the answer would be of yours is, that is the fifth answer, and that will be yours is your partitional. Now we'll go ahead with other question, that what we have to go through with that, and that is the another question as well, and that is we have, that is the other question we have is that this clustering method attempts to optimize the fit between the given data and some mathematical model. Such models are often based on assumption and that the data are generated by the mixtures of underlying the probability distribution. Name the clustering method. You have to explain the clustering method here. So the question, I repeated, that this clustering method attempts to optimize the fit between the given data and some mathematical model. Such models are often based on assumptions that the data are generated by the mixtures of underlying probability distributions, and name the clustering method. So the method we have here is that is your the model based clustering method. Other question is to identify the algorithm given below, like that is the first is your that the start with as many as clusters as there are records with one record in each clusters. Then you have to combine the two nearest clusters into a large cluster, and then you have to continue until only one cluster remains. So I repeat the question here. The question is to identify the algorithm given below. The question algorithm is start with as many clusters as there are records with one record in each cluster, combine the two nearest clusters into a large clusters, and then continue until only one cluster remains here. So that for that we have an answer here, and that is the answer would be your, that is agglomerative clustering. Now we'll discuss about the unit of 5, which is the last unit, and we'll have to discuss all the possible 2 marks question in that term. So that unit 5 which we have, and the name of the unit is your data visualization and overall perspective. In the same cases, for that we'll start with the memory based question, as I told you. So in this, that the first term we have to discuss to define the term aggregation here in this unit, which is memory based question of a civil 2 marks question, that to define the term aggregation. In aggregation here, that the process of consolidating the data values into a single value. The data aggregation is referred to as aggregate data. Aggregation is a fundamental part of the data warehousing, where aggregation is anonymously with summarization, and aggregate data is a synonymous that with the summary data as well. With the same case, we'll discuss the another question, that is to give the characteristics of OLAP. Characteristics of OLAP. So in the terms of the OLAP here, that they give the characteristics of OLAP, which has been asked of 2 marks, and there are 4 to 5 characteristics will discussed, because this has been asked of 2 marks. The first characteristic is that the calculation and modeling applied across the dimension through hierarchies or across members. The second characteristic is that to trend analysis over sequential time period. The third characteristics of OLAP is to slicing subset for on-screen viewing, and the fourth we have is to drill down to the deeper levels of consolidation. The fifth characteristics of the OLAP we have is that the reach through and to underlying detailed data here. Now we'll go ahead with the other question, that is the various types of OLAP servers. So give various types of OLAP servers. So that we have here the various types of OLAP servers here. The first type is your MOLAP. The second is your OLAP. And the third you have ROLAP. These were the 3 types of OLAP servers: MOLAP, OLAP, and ROLAP. So here we'll discuss one by one each. The what define MOLAP, define what is MOLAP, define HOLAP, or what is ROLAP. So in a MOLAP here, that is MOLAP stands for the multidimensional OLAP. It uses the database structures that are generally optimal for the attribute such as time period, and that is location, product, or account code that requires the pre-computations and storage of information in the cube as well. Where in the same cases, the other we have defined HOLAP. In this, that the HOLAP stands for the hybrid OLAP, and the HOLAP combines the best features of ROLAP and MOLAP as well. And in HOLAP system, one will find queries on aggregated data as well as detailed data. The OLAP database will divide data between the relational and specialized storage, and it uses the relational tables to hold the larger quantities of detailed data as well. We'll talk about explain rollup in this, that the rollup stands for the relational OLAP. The rollup designates that is designates one or several star schema stored in relational databases. The rollup is the latest and the fastest growing OLAP technology segment in the market. Rollup servers are the intermediate server that stands in between the relational back-end server and a front-end tool as well. Now we'll go ahead with another one, that is another question, which is write a short note on MQE. In the MQE, that is the MQE stands for here, that is managed query environment. So in managed query environment, that recent trends of OLAP is to enable capability for users to perform limited MOLAP server. Some products that have heritage in ad hoc query have developed feature to provide the data cube and slice and dice analysis capabilities as well. Now we'll go ahead to detail about discuss, that is give the functional components of data mining interfacing. That is the functional components of data mining interface are: the first is the data collection and data mining query composition, the second is the presentation of discovered patterns, the third is the hierarchical specification and manipulation, the fourth is the manipulation of the data mining primitives, and the fifth is your iterative multi-level mining as well. Now we'll go ahead and discuss about it. Another one, that is what are the types of security in data warehouse at a different level. So the following are the types of the security at a different levels we have. That is your application development, a load manager, warehouse manager, and a query manager. We'll discuss here. Types of security in a data warehouse. That the following are the types of security at a different level. First is your application development. That is the second we have here is your, that is the load manager. The third is your warehouse manager. And the fourth we have is your, that is your query manager. Now we'll discuss about in a detail, that is another question has been arrived, is what do you mean by backup. So in the backup process, that the copies of the parts of the databases or the entire databases are made, and the restoration is the process of copying files from backup, and the types of backup we'll talk about it here. Types of backup we have: the first we have is your complete backup. The second we have is a cold backup. Third we have is your hot backup. And the fourth we have is your outline backup, online backup. Now we'll go ahead to discuss about another one, which is to explain recovery. In the terms of the recovery here, that what we are dealing with, and that is in the terms of to discuss explain the recovery here. In recovery process, that recovery is the process of rebuilding a database here, and that is in the terms that rebuilding a database after some parts of the database has been lost, and the recovery model of a new database is inherited from the model database, and when a new database is created. So the types of recovery we'll talk about it, which is your types of recovery model. So we have types of recovery model. We have three. That is the first we have full recovery model. Second we have bulk large recovery model. And the third we have is your that is your simple recovery model. Now we'll discuss about the another one that what we have here. So now we'll talk about the another one that what we have to discuss here, and in the same cases let's go ahead with that, and that is another question is your what are the steps required to for tuning a data warehouse, and in that same cases we'll have to go ahead and in the respect towards it, that is the steps required to the tuning a data warehouse. The first is to tune the business rules, the second is to tune the data design, the third is to tune the application design, the fourth is to tune the logical structures of DB, and the fifth is to tune the DB, that is operation, and of course that is the another one. The sixth one is to tune the access path, and the seventh is to tune the memory allocation as well. In the same cases, now we'll go ahead with the discussion about it, which is what are the types of warehousing application. So the types of warehousing application will go ahead here. Types of warehousing applications. So here in this, that the data warehouse are widely used in the following fields. The first we have is your financial services. The second is your banking services. The third we have is your that is customer goods. Sorry, consumer goods. The fourth we have retail sector. The fifth we have is your controlled manufacturer, which is controlled manufacturing. Now we'll discuss another one, which is another question is to define web mining. So here in the terms that is your web mining. In the web mining here, that is web mining is a similar to the data mining, while which is a multidisciplinary effort that draws technique from fields like information retrieval, statistics, machine learning, NLP, etc. Web mining is usually divided into the following areas here. So here we'll go ahead with this, and that is we have web content. The second is your web structure mining. and the third is your web usage mining. Now we'll talk about the another question, which is write a short note on crawlers. In the that is that a crawler is a program that traverses the hypertext structure in the web, and the pages started by crawlers here, and that are in the same case that are known as a seed URL, and all the links from the starting page are recorded and saved in a queue, and a crawler may visit a certain number that of pages and then stop and build an index and replace the existing index. This type of a crawlers is called a periodic crawlers as well. Now we'll go ahead to discuss about the another question, which is to describe the harvest system. In the harvest system here, that is, it is based on the use of caching, indexing and crawling. Harvest is a set of tools that facilitate gathering of information from diverse sources, and harvest indices are the topic specific as are brokers, and this is used to avoid the scalability problem found without this approach. Now we'll go ahead with another one, that is, what is personalization? And what is personalization here? That the personalization is also one of the examples of web context mining. Personalization allow web access or the contents of a web page that are modified in a better way according to the user here. We'll go ahead with other one, that what we have to discuss is write a short note on a page rank. On a page rank here, that the page rank technique was proposed for both increasing the effectiveness of search engines and improving their efficiency. Page rank is used to measure the importance of a page and to prioritize the page returned from the traditional search engine using a keyword searching. The page rank value for the page is calculated based on the number of pages that point to it here. Now we'll go ahead to discuss about the another question, which is to explain what is clever. In the terms of the clever here, that is, a clever is one of the recent systems developed at IBM, which focuses at finding both authoritative pages and hubs. And a hub is a page that consists links to authoritative pages, and the clever system identifies authoritative pages and hub pages by creating the weights as well. We'll go ahead soon with another question, that is to give activities and issues of web usage mining. Activities of web usage mining. So in this, that the first is that is your pre-processing activities center around reformatting the weblog data before pre-processing, and pattern discovery activities form major portions of mining activities, and even though the pattern that analysis in the process of looking at and interpreting the results of activities that are discovered as well. Now we'll go ahead with the discussion about the activity issues here, because we had discussed about the activities. So issues in web usage mining. So in issues here, that is, identification of the exact user is not possible. It is difficult to uncover the sequence of pages that a user actually visit, and there are many privacy, security and legal issues yet to be solved as well. We'll go ahead with a detailed about the another question, which is list some algorithms used in a web mining. Algorithm used in web mining. So the algorithm that is used in a web mining here, where we have a three algorithm, that's the four algorithm used in the web mining. The first we have is your sequential pattern. Second is your maximal frequent sequence. Third is maximal forward references. Now we'll go ahead with the detailed about it. The another question, that is write a short note on spatial mining. In the spatial mining also called spatial data mining or knowledge discovery in a spatial database, is data mining as applied to spatial databases or the spatial data. Application of the spatial data mining are as to be follows. The first we have is a GIS system. Second is your geology. Third is agriculture. Fourth is environmental service. Fifth is medicine. And the sixth is your robotics. Now we'll go ahead with the discussion about the another one, that is what do you mean by progressive refinement? In progressive refinement here, that is what do you mean by the progressive refinement? So the quad trees, R trees and most other spatial indexing technique that use of the types of progressive refinement, and progressive refinement that can be viewed as filtering out the data that are not applicable to a problem with progressive refinement, and the hierarchical levels that are based on the spatial relationships as well. We'll go ahead with another one, that is what are spatial rules. In the spatial rules here, the spatial rules that can be created that describe the relationship between the structures of spatial object. There are the three types of rules in the spatial data mining. The first we have is your characteristics rule. In the characteristics rules here, that it describes the data. The second is your discriminant rule. In this, that it explains a difference between different classes of data. The third is your association rule. In this, that they are the amplification of one set of data by another. Now we'll go ahead with other question, and that is the another one that we have to discuss here as well. In the same references towards the question that you have to go through with that, and that is your what, write a short note on bang. So here in the time, write a short note on a bang here. In this term, that the bang technique uses a grid structure similar to a KD tree. It distributes the items in order to adapt more dense areas which contain larger number of the smaller grid, and while here that is your while less dense. So while that that area in which contain the larger number of the smaller grids, and which less dense areas have a few large ones, and that the grids are then sorted based on their density, which is the number of the items in the grid divided by its area as well. Now we'll talk about the another one, that is another question, and that is to define aggregate approximity. So here we will discuss about the aggregate proximity here as well. So in the aggregate proximity, that is in the same cases here, which is your in the same cases the aggregate proximity, and that what even though we have to discuss about it in a way, so we'll go ahead with aggregate proximity as well. That is here that it is defined as the measures of how close a cluster is to a feature, and this is not a measures of distance from the cluster boundary but rather to the points in the cluster. Sometimes data structures such as R trees, RD trees that cannot be used to efficiently find these aggregate proximity relationships. The aggregate proximity that we have the distance that may be measured by the sum of the distance to all the points and the cluster here. We'll go ahead with another one, that is what do you mean by the temporal mining. In the temporal mining here, that the temporal mining is a single step in the process of knowledge discovery in a temporal databases that enumerates the structures over the temporal data, and the algorithm that eliminates the temporal pattern from our fits model to the temporal data is temporal data mining algorithm. We'll go ahead with another one, that what we have to discuss is your what do you mean by hidden Markov model. In the terms of the hidden Markov models, that a hidden Markov model is simply a Markov model in which the states are hidden. For example, suppose we only had a sequence of throws from the three coin, and that the uppercase versus the lowercase information that had been lost here. We'll go ahead with the discussion, that is to define a sequence. In the sequence here, that is sequence is in the order or list of item set, where I equals like I1 I2 till IM, that we are set of items here, and a sequence S is which is S1 S2 till Sn, where Si that is a subset of I here. With same case, we can see that a sequence is sometimes viewed as an ordered list of attribute values from any domain, and the individual members of the sequence are sometimes viewed to be sets of items from some underlying domains as well. We'll go ahead to discuss about the other question, which is what do you mean by spade? In the spade here, that the spade is the full form of the spade is the sequential pattern discovery using the equivalence classes, and is an algorithm that identifies the pattern by traversing the lattice top down, and to improve the processing spade uses an ID list, and that associates the customers and transaction that is associated with each items as well. The two sequences of x and y that are equivalent, where we have that is represented that x equals to y. So here that is an x and y, and in the same cases that is if p x comma x, that p y comma k as well. Now we'll discuss about the application based questions here. So application based questions here, that is the diagrammatically we have to show the OLAP operation, that is your products, and that single cell, then that goes to the roll up to the multiple cells, slice and dice, and then of course it will go towards in the different direction in the drill down here, that is comes under known as OLAP operations here. To illustrate the MOLAP with the architecture, we have to represent that, and to illustrate the regular focused crawling with the help of a figure, that also we have to do it here as well. Where in the same cases that the first we have regular crawling, we will go ahead. This being divided into two, three. and this is also being divided into two. This is the next, it has been divided into the three one, and that has been divided, even though that has been divided into two as well. That is your regular crawling. That is your, we have here in the second one, this is your focused crawling. This is also being divided into three. So this is your focused crawling. Now we'll discuss about the evaluation based questions. In the evaluation based questions, if I'm talking about here, so where we'll talk about it, that as the first question is that this recovery models provides higher performance and lower log space consumptions for the certain large scale operation, and it does this at an expense of some flexibility of point in time recovery. Name the model. We have to name the model here. The question is, this recovery model provides higher performance and lower log space consumption for the certain large scale operation. It does this at the expense of some flexibility of point in time recovery, and you have to name the model here. The answer here is to be as follows, that is, the answer is your bulk logged recovery model. The second question we have is that these operation is performed in two ways. That the first, the operation selects one dimensions of the cube that result in subcube, and after that the operation defines the subcube by performing a selections on two or more dimensions. You have to name the operation. I repeat the question, that these operations is performed in two ways. First, the operation selects one dimensions of the cube and that results in the subcube, and after that the operation defines a subcube by performing a selections on two or more dimensions. You have to name the operations here, and so that we have an answer as well, that is in the form of slice and dice operations. Now here we had end up with data warehouse and data mining. We had completed all the unit, which is unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4 and unit 5. Even though we had discussed all the possible 2 marks questions, that of unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4 and unit 5. In unit 1, which we had covered up, that is your data warehousing, where we had covered up the overview definitions, data warehousing components, building a data warehouse, warehouse database, mapping the data warehouse to the multiprocess architecture, difference between the database system and data warehouse, multi-dimensional data models, data cubes, star, snowflakes, stack constellation, concept hierarchy, process architecture, three-tier architecture and data marting as well. Then as well as we had done the study chart questions as well. The other than that, we had done your unit 2, which is your data warehouse and process technology, which is your warehousing strategies, warehouse management and support, process, warehouse planning, implementation, hardware and operating systems for the data warehousing, client server computing model and data warehouse parallel processors and cluster system, distributed DBMS implementation, warehousing software, warehouse schema design, data extraction, cleanup and transformation tool, warehouse metadata as well. Then after that we had we have completed the short answers questions as well. In unit 3rd we had completed the data mining and reduction, which is overview, motivation, definitions and functionalities, data processing, form of data pre-processing, data cleaning, missing values, noisy data, binning, clustering, regression, computer and human inspection, inconsistent data, data integration and transformation, data reduction, data cube aggregation, dimensionality reduction, data compression, numerosity reduction, discretizations and concept hierarchy generation and decision tree. Even though we had discussed the short answers for this of 2 marks as well. In the unit 4, which is your classification and clustering, this is your classification, definition, data generalization, analytical characterization, analysis of attribute relevance, mining class comparisons, statistical measures in the large databases, statistical based algorithm, distance based algorithm, decision tree based algorithm, clustering, introduction, similarity and distance measures, hierarchical and a partitional algorithm, hierarchical clustering, Cure and chameleon, density based method, DB scan, optics, grid based method, distinct click, model based method, statistical approach, association rule, introduction, large attempt set, basic algorithm, parallel and distributed algorithm, neural network approach as well. After that, we have to cover up the unit 5th, which is your data visualization, that is your aggregation, historical information, query facility, OLAP functions and tools, OLAP server, ROLAP, MOLAP, HOLAP, data mining, interface, security, backup and recovery, tuning, data warehouse, testing data warehouse, warehousing application, recent trends, types of warehousing application, web mining, spatial mining and temporal mining. And even though we had done very short answer type questions of each unit, that is unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4 and unit 5. So thank you, hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up and give a suggestion on the comment box. Please like, share and subscribe our channel. As of, we had completed the data warehouse and data mining, and we had completed the principle of programming languages as well. Now we are doing with DBMS, that is database management system, computer graphics, quantitative aptitude, managerial economics and reasoning, where we had covered up the verbal reasoning and we are doing non-verbal reasoning. So you can go through with that playlist, you can go through with the subscribe button as well. Thank you, hope you enjoy this video. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up and give a suggestion on a comment box. Thank you.